Welcome to Sports Stories, the entire story of the Detroit Lions football team. The team began in Portsmouth, Ohio, as the Portsmouth Spartans and joined the NFL on July 12, 1930. In 1934, George A. Richards, a radio executive who owned WJR, purchased the team for $8,000 and moved them to Detroit, renaming them the Detroit Lions. Richards picked the name because he wanted to assemble a team that would be the king of the NFL, like the lion was the king of the jungle. He also wanted a tie-in to baseball's Detroit Tigers. In their first season in Detroit, the Lions started off with a 10-game win streak that included 7 shutouts. However, they lost the last 3 games of the season to finish in second place behind the Chicago Bears in the Western Division. That same year, Richards negotiated an agreement with NBC to carry his Thanksgiving games live across all of the network's affiliated stations. Since then, the tradition of the Lions playing on Thanksgiving has continued to this day. In 1935, the Lions had a 7-3-2 record, which was first in the Western Division. They advanced to the 1935 NFL Championship game against the New York Giants on December 15th in front of 15,000 fans in Detroit. The Lions won the game 26-7 to secure the franchise's first world championship. That was a part of Detroit's City of Champions for the 1935-36 sports season, as the Detroit Tigers won the 1935 World Series, and the Detroit Red Wings also captured the 1936 Stanley Cup. In 1939, the first year without their superstar players, Dutch Clark and Ernie Cadell, who had both decided to retire, the Lions only managed a disappointing record of 6-5. This season would set the tone for the next decade. The 1940s saw the Lions win only 35 games. Before the 1940 season, team owner George A. Richards, then living in Beverly Hills and in poor health, sold the team to Fred L. Mandel Jr., a 31-year-old member of the family that owned the Mandel Brothers department store of Chicago. On January 15, 1948, the NFL owners unanimously approved the sale of the Lions from Mandel to the Detroit Football Company, a 7-person syndicate led by D. Lyle Fife. During the 1949 season, team president D. Lyle Fife left his wife of 33 years for his secretary. The resulting scandal saw Fife resign and Edwin J. Anderson take over as president. At the start of the 1950s, the Lions had a roster to compete for championships, but were still in need of a franchise quarterback. They traded fullback Camp Wilson to the New York Yanks in exchange for quarterback Bobby Lane. In 1952, the Lions finished with a 9-3 record, tied with the Los Angeles Rams for first in the NFL's National Conference. For the first time in 17 years, the team returned to the playoffs. They advanced to the NFL championship game against the Cleveland Browns, which was the first of 4 championship games the two teams would play against each other during the decade. The Lions defeated the Browns 17-7 to win the second title in franchise history. The next year saw the Lions enjoy one of the greatest seasons in franchise history. They would draft future Hall of Fame linebacker Joe Schmidt in the 7th round of the 1953 NFL Draft. The Lions went 10-2, and they faced the Browns again in the 1953 NFL Championship game, in which Bobby Lane found Jim Doran for a 33-yard game-winning touchdown in the final minutes to win 17-16. In 1954, the Lions would finish with a 9-2-1 record. they faced the Browns in the NFC Championship game for the third consecutive season. This time, however, the Browns destroyed the Lions 56 to 10. At the end of the 1957 season, Bobby Lane had been lost to injury, but Lions backup quarterback Tobin Rote led the team to the NFL championship game. Rote threw for 4 touchdowns and ran in another as the Lions routed the Browns 59 to 14, claiming their third championship in 6 years. To date, this is the last championship the Detroit Lions have won. In 1958, the Lions traded Bobby Lane to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for Earl Morrall and 2 future draft picks. According to legend, as he was leaving for Pittsburgh, Bobby Lane said that the Lions would not win another championship for 50 years. The franchise's subsequent years of futility has been labeled the curse of Bobby Lane. In 1961, Edwin J. Anderson resigned as team president, and one of his supporters, William Clay Ford Sr., was chosen by the shareholders to succeed him. On November 22, 1963, William Clay Ford Sr. purchased a controlling interest in the team for $6 million. During Ford's ownership tenure, which lasted until his death in 2014, the Detroit Lions won just a single playoff game. In the mid 1960s, the Lions were used as the backdrop for the sports literature of George Plimpton, who spent time in the Lions training camp masquerading as a player. This was the basic material for his book Paper Lion, which was later made into a movie starring Alan Alda and a number of actual Lions players, including Alex Karras. Motown soul singer Marvin Gaye made plans, after the death of duet partner Tammy Terrell, to join the Lions and go into football. He gained weight and trained for his tryout in 1970, but was cut early on. He remained friends with a number of the players, including Mel Farr and Lem Barney, who appear as background vocalists on his 1971 classic single, What's Going On? The 1970 Lions remain one of the best teams in franchise history, finishing with a 10-4 record. They were the first team to qualify for the NFL's newly created wild card playoff position. However, they lost that playoff game to the Dallas Cowboys 5-0 and did not see the postseason again for the rest of the 1970s. While playing at home against the Chicago Bears on October 24, 1971, tragedy struck when wide receiver Chuck Hughes collapsed and died of a massive heart attack. He remains the only NFL player to ever die on the field. On Thanksgiving Day, November 28, 1974, after over 35 years, the Detroit Lions played their final game at Tiger Stadium. The Lions moved to a newly constructed domed stadium in suburban Pontiac, Michigan. The Lions had the first overall pick in the 1980 NFL Draft, which they used to draft Heisman Trophy winner Billy Sims from Oklahoma. The Lions entered 1982 with hope for a possible playoff run. A players' strike canceled 7 games, cutting the season to only 9 games. A 4-5 record was good enough to qualify for the playoffs, as they became only the second team ever to make the playoffs with a losing record. In the wild card round, the Lions were routed 31-7 by the eventual Super Bowl champion Washington Redskins. In the 1983 season, the Lions won 9 games to capture the NFC Central Division Championship. The Lions lost to the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Divisional Round 24-23 on a late missed field goal by Eddie Murray. On October 21, 1984, during a game against the Minnesota Vikings, Billy Sims suffered a career-ending knee injury. He spent 2 years trying to rehab his injury before retiring in 1986. Midway through the 1988 season, Wayne Fontes was named the head coach of the Detroit Lions, and by the end of his coaching career was considered to be one of the best coaches in franchise history and had the most wins and losses of any head coach in Detroit Lions history. With the third overall draft pick in the 1989 NFL Draft, the Lions selected another Heisman Trophy winning running back, Barry Sanders from Oklahoma State. The Lions showed improvement, but still finished third in the NFC Central with a 7-9 record. However, fans could feel things beginning to change in Detroit because during his rookie season, Barry Sanders rushed for 1,470 yards on 280 carries and finished second in the NFL in rushing. Sanders earned the Offensive Rookie of the Year award following the season. Barry Sanders won the first of his four NFL rushing titles in 1990 with 1,304 yards. However, the Lions took a step back when they finished just 6-10. In 1991, the Lions went 12-4 for the season and won their first division title in 8 years. They were inspired late in the season by guard Mike Utley, who sustained a career-ending paralysis injury against the Los Angeles Rams on November 17, 1991. As Utley was carted off the field, he flashed a thumbs up to his teammates and the Silverdome crowd. It became a rallying symbol for the remainder of the season. In the 1991 NFC Divisional Round, the Lions dismantled the Dallas Cowboys 38-6 for the franchise's first playoff win since 1957. It has been their only playoff win since. In the NFC Championship game, they were completely overpowered by the Redskins by the score of 41-10. In 1993, Detroit would secure the division title with a 10-6 record. In the wild card round, the Lions suffered a heartbreaking 28-24 loss to the Green Bay Packers. In 1994, the Lions went 9-7, clinching a playoff berth for the third time in 4 years. However, they would once again suffer another heartbreaking loss to the Packers in the wild card round, this time by the score of 16-12. In 1995, the Lions would finish 10-6. The Detroit Lions went on the road to face the Philadelphia Eagles in the wild card round and were embarrassed by the score of 58-37. In the following season, the Lions regressed with a 5-11 record to finish last in the division, and Wayne Fontes was fired as head coach. He would be succeeded by Bobby Ross, and the 1997 season saw the Lions go 9-7 to clinch a playoff berth. During the season, Barry Sanders ran for 2,053 rushing yards, becoming the third running back to join the 2,000-yard club. In the wild card round, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the Lions 20-10. In 1998, the Lions finished fourth in the NFC Central with a disappointing 5-11 record, and following the season, Barry Sanders announced his retirement. After Barry Sanders retired, the 1999 season shockingly saw the Lions make the playoffs with an 8-8 record before losing to the Washington Redskins 27-13 in the wild card round. 9 games into the 2000 season, Bobby Ross would resign as head coach following an embarrassing loss to the Miami Dolphins. Following the season, the Lions hired Matt Millen, a former player and broadcaster, as team president and CEO. The Lions fell apart in the 2001 season. The final game at the Pontiac Silverdome was played on January 6, 2002, where the Lions defeated the Cowboys 15-10 and finished the season only 2-14. Prior to the 2002 season, the NFL realigned to 8 divisions of 4 teams thanks to the addition of the expansion Houston Texans, and the NFC Central became the NFC North. 2002 served as the inaugural season where the Lions played at the new Ford Field in downtown Detroit. This was also the first time the franchise had played in the city of Detroit since 1974. The Lions went the entire 2001, 2002, and 2003 seasons without a road victory, which was a then NFL record 24 straight games. With the second overall pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Lions selected Georgia Tech wide receiver Calvin Johnson. Things appeared to be looking up for the Lions heading into the 2008 season as they went 4-0 during the preseason. Once the regular season started, however, they would hit rock bottom. After starting 0-3, Matt Millen was fired as team president and CEO. Over 7 seasons under his leadership as team president, the Lions owned the NFL's worst winning percentage with a 31-84 record and 0 winning seasons. The Lions finished 0-16, becoming the first team in NFL history to go winless in a 16-game season. The Lions were the first team to go winless since the 1982 Baltimore Colts went 0-8-1 in the strike-shortened season, and the first in a full season since the 1976 expansion Tampa Bay Buccaneers went 0-14. The Lions selected Georgia quarterback Matthew Stafford with the first overall pick in the 2009 NFL Draft. They agreed on a 6-year, $72 million contract with $41.7 million in guaranteed money. On September 27, 2009, the team broke their 19-game losing streak with a 19-14 win at Ford Field against the Washington Redskins. In Week 15 of the 2010 season, they ended an NFL record 26-game road losing streak by beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-20 in overtime. In the 2011 season, the Detroit Lions began the year 5-0 for the first time since 1956. The Lions finished the season as the number 6 seed with a 10-6 record. In the wild card round, the Saints defeated the Lions 45-28. On March 9, 2014, longtime owner William Clay Ford Sr. died at the age of 88. On March 10th, it was announced that controlling interests of the franchise would be passed down to Ford's widow, Martha. During the 2014 season, the new hire of head coach Jim Caldwell improved the Lions drastically from the previous 2 seasons. With the league's second-best defense, the Lions posted an 11-5 record and qualified for the playoffs. However, the Lions suffered a controversial 24-20 loss to the Dallas Cowboys in the wild card round. The 2015 season began with a 1-7 start to the season. The Lions played better down the stretch to finish with a 7-9 record. This season marked the end of an era as Calvin Johnson retired after the season. The great start to the 2016 season had the Lions looking like they set themselves up for a division title at 9-4. However, during a Week 14 win over the Chicago Bears, Matthew Stafford suffered an injury to the middle finger of his throwing hand. The Lions finished 9-7, and in the wild card round, they were defeated by the Seattle Seahawks 26-6. On June 23, 2020, majority owner and chairperson Martha Firestone Ford stepped down. She was succeeded by her daughter, Sheila Ford Hamp. On January 20th, 2021, former New Orleans Saints assistant head coach Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions agreed to a 6-year deal to become the next Lions head coach. On March 18th, 2021, the Lions traded longtime quarterback Matthew Stafford to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for quarterback Jared Goff, a third-round pick in the 2021 draft, and first-round picks in the 2022 and 2023 drafts. In the 2021 NFL Draft, the Lions selected offensive tackle Penei Sewell, 7th overall, and wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown in the fourth round. The Lions finished the season at 3-13-1. 2022 would be a potential breakout year for the Lions. In the draft, the Lions acquired multiple pieces of their core, including defensive ends Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Pascal, wide receiver Jamison Williams, cornerback Kirby Joseph, and linebackers James Houston and Malcolm Rodriguez. While the team would get off to a rough 1-6 start, they would end the season strong, winning 8 of their last 10 games to go 9-8, their first winning season since 2017. However, the team did miss the playoffs for the sixth consecutive season. In 2023, the Detroit Lions will play their 94th season, continuing to be one of the National Football League's oldest franchises. On Thursday, September 7th, 2023, the Lions will open the NFL season against the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. There are once again high hopes in the Motor City. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe so you can catch all the sports stories.